actually protection against skin cancer development. You need to be using vitamin C.
Salmon sperm. Is it salmon sperm?
Controversial. It's not in your routine. It needs to be in your routine.
Fabulous. Our sources of fish that we're eating is not as good. Mercury.
Times are changing. Doubles your risk of melanoma. I'm cutting out skin cancers every 6 months.
Is it possible to reverse the damage we did?
Good levels of decreased frequency.
These issues that we're all struggling with. And, what's your advice? Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the Phytoceutics Her Health podcast. This is a platform for you to be empowered with the knowledge, the tools, the science to make health decisions. But it's more than that. It's a conversation with real people, females in the health profession, that's going to give you a relatable, interesting conversation on health. So without further ado, here is our first guest, Dr. Lauren Knight. She is a dermatologist in Cape Town with a wealth of knowledge. And it's not our first rodeo. We've spoken a few times. And today specifically, we're focusing on skin, hair, and nail health, particularly as everything changes as you age, your 20s, your 40s, your 50s. We're looking at, the evolution of your skin, hair, and nails. So I think we're starting off with a quick rapid fire ingredient, yay or nay.
Okay.
First up, vitamin C.
I think for me, that is like 100% yes. If you're not using vitamin C, you need to be using vitamin C. It's so potent. All the evidence for antioxidant benefit, from an aesthetic point of view, unleashing that kind of inner glow, your skin glow, evening out pigmentation, texture, stimulating collagen. But then also there's new evidence around enhanced photoprotection. So actually protection against skin cancer development through the DNA repair by blocking those free radicals. So yes, if it's not in your routine, it needs to be in your routine.
Fabulous. Do you want to rate it out of 10?
10.
Oh, love that. We started off strong. Okay, omega-3.
I'd say about 7. Incredible for inflammation, barrier support. So good for general health, but also really good if you've got skin conditions with barrier impairment. So your eczema, rosacea, acne, if you're on acne treatments. Great.
Let's see. Zinc.
So about a 6, good anti-inflammatory, good for general health. Again, if you've got anything gut-related, beautiful, nice anti-inflammatory, soothing. Yeah, great.
Collagen.
Collagen, a bit controversial. I'll probably rate it higher than it maybe deserves. So probably about a 7. The thing about collagen is that there's a lot of evidence in terms of joint health. The skin health evidence is a little bit iffy. So we're still waiting for definite proof that it does do all the things that it's supposed to do.
We have that proof.
So, okay. But that being said, it's one of those things, there's no harm in using it. The evidence is really moving in that way. And I'm definitely putting it in my coffee every morning. So
interesting. From the doctor's mouth. What else have we got? Hyaluronic acid.
Oh, okay. A crowd favorite. One of those that we don't all need, but we can definitely all benefit from. So sometimes a bit of a tricky guy as to where do I put it in my routine. But it's something that we all intrinsically have, something that declines with age, so something that's going to make you feel a bit more dehydrated, less plumpy as we get older. And definitely has great benefits. If you're having a bit of a higher molecular weight one, it's going to sit more on the surface of the skin, giving you a nice natural glow, a plump. Whereas a lower molecular weight one is going to penetrate deeper into your skin, evening out fine lines and wrinkles. So yes, definitely use it.
But then we're talking about topical hyaluronic acid.
Yes.
What about hyaluronic acid supplements?
It's tricky. I think also like most supplements, I'm going to say the evidence is coming.
Okay.
But no harm.
Okay. Silicone.
Good. Also a new hot off the press topic. And again, works by that same mechanism of collagen stimulating your connective tissue. So your collagen, your elastin, your fibroblasts. So I would say one to watch.
Okay. Resveratrol.
Definitely useful, both topically and systemically. A potent, again, antioxidant like vitamin C. Topically, I love it for its kind of not as irritating as vitamin C. So if you're irritated by topical vitamin C, resveratrol is your girl. Systemically, incredible. What you're going to get from red wine, berries, all those good fruits, natural antioxidants, which we probably don't take enough in our diet. So useful as a supplement.
Great. Last one, probiotics.
I mean, I'm going to say about 9. So I think the evidence is really moving. Topically, when we're looking at the skin, we're looking at the microbiome as our next level of what we're going to target in terms of skincare. And I think the same is following in the gut, or probably actually advanced in the gut. And we're realizing that there's this untapped kind of ecosystem science that we need to look at. And I think that there's so much evidence around microbiome and probiotic support of the microbiome. So definitely one of those things, nobody is going to be harmed by using it. And we should all really be thinking about how we can incorporate it into our diets.
Love that. Okay, so Lauren, the skin is often the mirror of your internal health. So can we just chat about how this changes through the different phases of life? I guess starting with your teens and 20s.
Yeah.
I think the teens, 20s is quite a tumultuous time.
Yeah.
You've got acne, or maybe not. Maybe we're not caring enough about our skincare regimes, although apparently the youth of today are all about drunk elephant.
Yeah.
Then I guess as you move into your 20s, out of that acne phase, hormones are starting to balance. That's probably like your most beautiful time, right?
Well, I mean, I think it's all up for debate. This kind of fluctuations of hormones is present throughout, and some people are going to harness that glow, and some people are going to just be battling this constant turbulent flow of hormones. And I think it's important to remember that what we're seeing externally, so yes, your skin is your canvas of internal health, but it's also a reflection of your extrinsic exposures. So we look at it in two parameters. So your intrinsic changes and your extrinsic changes. So intrinsic is exactly what you've spoken about, hormonal changes that fluctuate throughout life, but then also your genetic changes. So a lot of how you age, how your skin ages is influenced by your genetics. Okay, so a lot of people will say like, look to your mom, that's probably how you're going to look to your dad, look how people have aged. Are people in your family bald? Well, you're more likely to be bald. So there's a huge genetic component into what's happening. But the extrinsic is really where we focus. So your sum total of your exposures, whether it be lifestyle exposures, dietary exposures, stress, sun, all of those kind of things are your extrinsic changes. So yes, as we navigate through these huge stages of life, there's variations in flux as to which is going to be more prominent and which is not. So we speak about teens, early tweens, but I'd actually like to take a step back and say, we're going to start when we're tweens. So this new missing middle or missing start of between 8 to 12. So, and this is where we're speaking about kids kind of being more interested in skincare. It's because we're starting to see changes earlier. Life has dictated that a lot of children are actually starting puberty earlier. So we're starting to see some of those hormonal changes that you speak of earlier. So as we, in our tweens from 8 to 12, you start seeing those sex hormones of your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone slowly start to creep up. So skins might be a little bit oilier. And I am starting to see in my rooms parents asking, my kid is interested in skincare. When do I start a skincare routine? What do I do about my 8-year-old who has an oily skin? So I think we're supposed to start thinking that times are changing. So, or maybe just that there's an increased awareness about health and skin health, and like you speak about routines and getting people on routines. So we might start seeing those early changes in our tweens, but definitely in our teens to early 20s, it ramps up.
So in those tweens, what would you say? Like a mild cleanser, a sunblock,
Yes,
and a
exactly.
moisturizer?
So cleanser, not even always a moisturizer, just a sunblock. And if they are starting to get acne prone, you could maybe look at more kind of cleansers, moisturizers that are going to regulate that sebum production. But it's usually a conversation around the fact of your body is changing, the skin is maybe getting a bit oilier. We never used to have to wash your hair as much, and now we're starting to have to wash your hair. We're starting to have to look at deodorants. And I think as parents, it's important to be aware of that, to start those conversations early with our children. And then, in your teens, your early 20s, there's this ramp up of the hormones, so in our reproductive years. So yes, you're going to be battling potentially acne or not. We're going to start seeing those hormonal influences in that you might start developing melasma. You might be putting on oral contraceptives to regulate your hormones or for contraception. That then again brings this whole other skin changes. And in our 20s, we're generally focusing on coming into our own, finding yourself, dealing with potential problems around acne. But then also in our 20s, we start seeing the effects of intrinsic aging. So maybe not seeing, but it starts coming to the fore. So we know from our late 20s, your collagen starts degrading, decreased production of terrible enzymes. Our hyaluronic acid store starts declining. And you start seeing, maybe the start of the changes of your extrinsic exposures. So your lifestyle, are you a smoker? Don't you exercise? You've been in the sun a lot. So maybe that's something that you start thinking about. And then in your 30s, we really start thinking, or the kind of ramping up of the extrinsic influence happens. So people always say to me, do I look good for 30? Do I look good for 35? And it really is a spectrum. And it is often a sum of your extrinsic exposures that really influences that. But in your 30s, you do start seeing a resorption of the fat pads. So your face shape starts changing around our 30s and our 40s. Obviously, hormones still always at play. And then we start entering that part of the perimenopause and menopause. So like I say, we want to focus on tweens. The focus is now also around perimenopause. So we used to focus on people, adolescents, in our reproductive years. And then we've started talking about menopause, but now we're also thinking about perimenopause and the idea of your hormones are whack, but you can still fall pregnant. So a little bit of a tricky time in most women's lives. And then, so you're still thinking about hormones. You've hopefully developed a better skincare routine. But then we also start focusing on regeneration. We're trying to replenish what is starting to slowly deplete itself. And then obviously in our menopause time in your 50s, we're starting to really see those kind of aging, ramping up, intrinsic as well as extrinsic. So we start seeing the shape of the face changing. You're changing from that so-called like triangle of youth to that pyramid of aging where your face kind of starts squaring off. So yeah, it really is a reflection of what's happening internally, externally. Some things you can do a lot about, some things you can do very little about. But I think as a society, it's really exciting because we're shifting our perception of what is aging, what is beautiful, but also we're shifting our focus into regeneration, replenishing, looking at these extrinsic factors. How can we optimize them? How can you make yourself generally healthier rather than just trying to like fix things?
Yes. Okay, so backtracking, I remember in my youth, my mother would make me take cod liver oil, which was horrendous and would repeat on you the whole day, which I guess like ties into omega-3, which now comes in capsule form.
She was ahead of her time.
She was ahead of her time. Don't know if it helped much from my skin perspective and anti-aging, but with supplements in your tweens, teens, what would you recommend? So there's quite a lot of studies on omega-3 and acne, actually, probably from an inflammatory perspective. We just also read a study on NMN for acne, which is also interesting. I guess that ties into vitamin B3, which you also put on topically.
Anti-inflammatory.
So, what would you recommend or do a lot of teens, tweens, early 20s take from a supplement perspective that will really assist their skin?
Yeah, I think the first thing you've always got to think about is a supplement is an add-on. So we're wanting people to have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy diet.
Yes.
And then you're looking for extra benefits. We don't want people to be looking for supplements as an answer to everything. It needs to be a component. But there is definite evidence for increasing or boosting, like you say, because we don't have enough omega-3 in our diets. Another thing that's really useful in that time is zinc. So I'd say the average tween, teen, early 20 or to early 20-year-old could really benefit from being on omega, zinc, and a probiotic.
Okay.
But then obviously if you're on medication, you might need additional supplementation. So for example, my acne patients all go on omega-3, they all go on zinc because it's going to help with the side effects of the medication. So yeah, it's kind of what is your baseline? What do you need? Is there anything we need to supplement or boost?
So interesting enough, I agree with you, diet first and foremost, but there's also a lot of, research now around the omega-3 index being like really low in the majority of the population, but also our sources of fish that we're eating is not as good. It's got a lot of mercury, it's got toxins in it. So they're actually recommending high quality omegas over eating fish these days, which is quite sad. The fact that we're moving away from food, but also understandable if you want to keep that omega-3 index high. Okay, so now we're moving into 30s, 40s. A lot of changes happen then. And again, I could kick myself. If I think of my 20s, I used to lie in the sun with olive oil all over me and I would burn. And I'd be like, oh, it'll be brown tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is, I did so much damage.
We all did it. We used to, at school, take baby oil to school and take our socks off at break time to like do our legs.
Yeah, and get rid of that sock tag.
Yes.
So is it possible to reverse the damage we did?
Yes and no. Okay, so you will notice our skin is in some ways very forgiving in that if you decided now I'm not going in the sun anymore, your baseline level of tan, a lot of the sun damage starts to fade, to lighten. But unfortunately, what we do know is sunburns in childhood, more than 5 blistering sunburns doubles your risk of melanoma. And childhood sunburns increases your risk of later on skin cancers. So there's a degree of non-reversibility or irreversibility, but there is obviously a degree of reversibility. And supplementation is also helping that. So there's a lot of evidence around things like nicotinamide in actually enhancing DNA repair. Like I said to you about antioxidants, actually mopping up those sunburn cells, regulating your DNA damage, because we know that cancers are caused or occur as a result of accumulation of DNA damage. So yes, you can reverse it or you can kind of prevent it. And I always say to people, it's never too late. And my patients who I'm cutting out skin cancers every 6 months, they're on nicotinamide, and we're starting to see good levels of decrease frequency of these cancers. So that's a really good population to study, because as people have got a lot of cumulative sun exposure at the end of life, is it too late? No, it's not too late. So it's never too late. So if you do it now.
Okay, Amen for the win. Thanks. Okay, so then just with regards to like skin inflammation, again, grew up thinking chocolate would give me acne. Not that I cared that much because chocolate is king, but I'm guessing that's more the sugar in the chocolate and that being inflammatory for your skin.
I mean, it's so interesting, and it's something that, that if I can count, I can probably count every parent who sits with their teenager and says, tell them not to eat chocolate. It's going to make their acne worse. And it's kind of a theory that's been proven but also disproven. So it might also be to do the fact that when you're on your period, you crave chocolate. Your acne naturally gets worse around the time of your period. So that's maybe one thing. We do know that the diet linked to acne is also a little bit controversial, and there's only really a few things that actually are proven to worsen acne. But one of the things is a high glycemic index diet, which obviously is where your chocolate falls in. Gut inflammation, that gut-skin axis causing inflammation of the skin. But there's also a very good study that was done in France in a French boarding house where half of the kids were allowed to eat chocolate and the other half not. So, I mean, pity if you were in that half. But the rates of acne were actually the same. So it's a small component.
Yeah.
I think everything in moderation.
Great. Okay, so let's dig a bit deeper into that gut skin axis. At Phytoceutics, we are very we love gut health. We're all about gut health. It's one of our pillars in the Phytoceutics brand. And we're big believers in the gut-brain axis, the gut-skin axis, the gut-organ axes. Like, there's so many axes, and there's so much research now in probiotics and in specific targeted probiotics. It's not just like a however many billion you can get in one probiotic.
Have a scoop of yogurt.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like there are specific strains that are beneficial for, whatever you're targeting. So is there anything that we're missing when it comes to the gut-skin axis? Are there specific strains that, are really in the limelight at the moment? What's your advice there?
I mean, I think for people, it's just important to understand what it is. So it's this kind of accumulation of viruses, bacteria, and fungi that form an extra layer in your gut, extra layer on your skin. So we're kind of starting to think about the skin as actually being 4 layers. So there's your microbiome, your epidermis, your dermis, then your
so
dermis.
Microbiome on the surface.
So the microbiome on the surface of the skin and obviously on the gut. And I think as to specifically which strain is tricky, because obviously everybody's microbiome is really diverse. So gut as well as skin, there's a diversity, interperson diversity, but there's also a diversity, interregional diversity. So your microbiome in your highly sebaceous areas of your scalp, your chest, your back is very different to the microbiome under your arms, on your face, on your legs. So I think, we really want to be specific and targeted, but it's sometimes also tricky. But I think that's where it's like you say, you lean into the brands, you lean into the people that can give you evidence behind their choice of probiotic, their choice of composition of probiotic. And you just really want to interrogate that it isn't just, there's this many billion, that we've given to you. And you really want to know that it is gut specific or skin specific. So I think it's more kind of that. You can, people want to make it really specific, like you need this one bacteria.
Yeah.
And often we have a problem with just this one bacteria in that we see that's actually the loss of diversity or the focus or overgrowth of one bacteria over the other, or one fungi over the other, or one yeast over the other, is actually what causes skin problems. So in acne, the loss of diversity of Cutibacterium acnes is what causes your acne. The loss of diversity or the increase of Malassezia furfur is what causes your seborrheic dermatitis. So there's all different kind of loss of diversity. So I don't think you need to focus on one. You need to choose a probiotic that's got the correct number, but that's diverse.
Yeah. What's also interesting is often if it has like billions, how much is actually live and active,
And how much is absorbed.
and how much is absorbed.
Yeah.
And, talking about that, I think they often have like spin-offs. So our Ceregut, which is clinically proven to improve mood via the gut-brain axis, because it comes in this delicious sachet, a lot of children take it,
Yes.
and we've had a lot of anecdotal feedback from our consumers saying it's helping my children with their eczema, even though, it's really a targeted probiotic for the gut-brain axis. So it just shows that the gut microbiome is, it's not exactly a one-size-fits-all.
And I mean, I think eczema is the perfect example of the microbiome, because we know, and a lot of what we know about the microbiome is because of eczema and that overgrowth of Staph aureus. So, I mean, if you take it, people knew about the microbiome before we knew about the microbiome, because people were doing bleach baths for their kids before we even thought about supplementing with probiotics. So it's a perfect example of people who really should be on probiotics.
So we haven't touched on hair and nails much. And I actually had a girls' dinner last night, and I always have gel on my nails. It's just, I know it's not good for my nails,
together.
but it's just my thing.
Yeah.
And I got told last night that it's completely ruining my nails and my nail bed, and the UV is giving me cancer, which was devastating.
Yeah.
So can you please give me your expert advice on that and
Yeah.
justify why I can carry on going for my nails?
I mean, you can do it because it makes you feel good.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, there's actually even a study that's just been released now about how some of the gels are being pulled from the market in Europe because of the chemicals they contain, not necessarily for your exposure, but exposure for the nail tech that's buffing it off, that's peeling it off. So watch that space. So there's a lot of question, there's a lot of buzz around it. But yeah, so from one point of view, it is going to damage your nail bed. But again, depending how it's being applied, depending how it's being removed. We've all had those periods where you've had your nails soaked off and you look at your nails and think, oh my gosh, it's never going to grow beyond 1 millimeter for the next 6 months because it has been so buffed. The top plate is completely flattened. Or I see people who, it looks like they've got a fungal infection, but it's just actually that the nail is so destroyed, so dehydrated from that top plate being scrubbed off. So yes, can definitely damage your nails. Manicures in generally, though, can damage your nail, where people are pushing cuticles back, you cutting cuticles. Your cuticle is your little protective part of your nail bed that sits just below your cuticle. So, dabbing something in there all the time disrupts how your nail plate grows, causes ridging, fracturing of your nail plate. And then obviously people get chronic paronychia infections because of that now entry portal under the cuticle. So really you have to make sure that the person's doing it knows what they're doing it, knows how they're doing it, know they're doing it correctly, that you're using products that can be applied, soaked off easily. And then, yes, the UV curing lamps are really something that's come to the fore. There is obviously an increased risk of cancer with UV exposure, whether it be tanning beds, UV lamps. In many instances, the duration and the amount of UV that you're actually exposed to when you're having your nails done is probably safe, but we're usually practicing put sunscreen on your hands before you go have it done. Try not to do it all the time. People have UV tanning gloves, which obviously protect half the hand, but then your nails. And then there's this idea of nail melanoma, which obviously then could happen on your nail place from that increased sun exposure. So I think we're just moving to a place of, if you don't have to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Do it for special occasions. But, it's also the idea of people say don't do Brazilians on your hair because it's dangerous, it's harmful. But there's a lot of it that is altruistic, and that if it makes you feel good.
Oh my goodness, I'm doomed.
You're doomed, but at least you'll look beautiful.
Okay, hair. So I think like most mums have been on a journey with my hair. When I was little, my hair was so thick, I would get a headache from it being in a ponytail. Then I had children, and I think it's half shed. And, I don't know, maybe females can relate, but you wash your hair and you get this clump and you kind
That you stick on the wall and it has
on the
complaints.
and my husband's like, get that creature out of the bathroom. So, how can I stop that? Is this normal? I think a little bit of it has grown back, but it's nowhere near where it was in my 20s.
I mean, it's completely normal, and people are always amazed. And I always say to patients when they sit in my room crying, and I say to them, You won't believe it. More people cry about their hair than cry about their cancer diagnosis. And I think that just really speaks to it.
Yeah.
It always sounds like, oh, but it's so, self-absorbed or, vain. But I think we don't realize the impact skin, hair, and nails have on people.
Mm.
So I think it's completely justified, and people do feel it's devastating. It's as women, it's our crown, it's part of your personality, and so yes, it's this common thing of obviously as we're younger, in many instances our hair is thicker, and it's obviously to do with hormones, to do with the stress of life, to do with around pregnancy. Obviously, your hair looks amazing. It's this flux of hormones. You have your baby, and half of it falls out. And like you say, if you're lucky, most of it grows back. If you're lucky, 50% of it grows back. But often people do say it never is quite the same again.
So on that, with hormone replacement in perimenopause, would that then supplement and help your hair?
Yeah. So what's happening in perimenopause is obviously your hair is just naturally thinning because obviously, unfortunately, like we've said, everything just gets a bit thinner. Our skin gets thinner, drier, hair gets thinner, drier, hair
Except our hips.
yeah, all. um, so, it's kind of like it's expected. So in the perimenopause or in menopause, the hair loss can be just natural progression, slowing down a chronic telogen effluvium, which is a manifestation of what we call our androgenic alopecia. So that change in the hormones where we have a decrease in our estrogen. But often what a lot of women are having is actually female pattern hair loss. So as men, we know men bald in the front and over the top of the head. Women, we start seeing a widening of our path and thinning out on the top of our head.
And also like a longer forehead.
Yes, exactly. So that can be another kind of hair loss, which we always need to worry about. But generally, if you look at the average woman, your path starts getting wider, your hair starts getting a bit thinner on the top of your head. So there's a little bit less volume. So that's all process of normal. And again, it might just be that you're on a lower scale, but if you've got balding in your family, whether it's the woman or the men, that could also be attributing to your hair loss. So yes, a lot of supplementation and replacement in the perimenopause and menopause does help with that.
Well, I think this is kind of why we launched the Phytofem range, because this is supplements made for women, by women, with, ingredients that are targeting these issues that we're all struggling with. And I think hair, skin, and nails is really, like you say, something that women care so deeply about, and it makes you feel good about yourself. If your hair is great, your skin is great, and your nails are great.
Yeah. And I think it's so important, like you said, to have the woman perspective. I mean, a patient told me the other day that crash test dummies were only in the early 2000s, or actually I think even around 2010, made in the female form because men designed cars. So the crash test dummies were men. So we knew how a seatbelt worked on a man. We never knew how it actually works on a woman. So
but most studies are they not on males, where they also talk about fasting, where they talk about cold plunges. Like a lot of this evidence is done on males, and females are not small males.
No, exactly. It's like you say, like children are not small adults.
Yeah.
So it's really great. And I really love the fact that it is. It's what do women want? What are the questions that women want to answer? And it's creating a safe space for women. We didn't know about menopause because most of the of doctors and scientists were men. It was just that time the thing that happened to women. So it's now women are allowed to talk about it. We're allowed to sit at girls' dinner and be like, guys, I'm going crazy. I'm not sleeping. And to discuss, and talk to your parents, talk to your friends. I'm on magnesium, it helps. Or I'm on this and it's helping me with my sleep. And have open conversations and lean into our girlfriends and our stages of life for different reasons, which is incredible.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go back and let's talk about each phase of your life. And if there's one skincare product or like ingredient and one supplement you could recommend.
Okay.
If you can pick one, maybe two.
Okay.
So let's start with tweens, because you mentioned that.
Yeah. So I think in your tweens, you're really just wanting sunscreen.
Okay.
So you want to get your kids into the habit of using sunscreen. If they can do more, great. Because then you make my job easier when they come with a problem.
Sure.
We're not talking about washes and cleansers and moisturizers for the first time.
Yeah.
So I think probably sunscreen, or definitely sunscreen, and an omega if you wanted to supplement them, or a probiotic.
Okay.
If you can get them to take anything, but like you say, the Ceregut and the sachet is easy, or a gummy.
Yeah, or a spray.
A spray. Then in your teens, let's just put teens separate from early 20s. So in your teens, you probably also just still sunscreen and a skincare routine that's targeted to your skin type, your skincare concerns. Because like we said, we might start seeing, or you see more of people then can have oily combination dry skin. So you'd want to having a bit more of an individualized skincare routine, but again, still focused around protection. So early life, really protection. And then again, I would say probably omega, a probiotic, maybe something like zinc.
Would you not start vitamin C already then?
So Not, I mean, you could. If someone was interested, they could start vitamin C there, but in your teens. But usually in the teens, there's a lot of other stuff going on.
Okay.
You either have teens that are super interested in doing skincare or those that are like being dragged
Yeah.
by their parents to try and do something. So we just try to keep it simple. Early 20s, I'd say, is where you really want to start your antioxidants. So there you're starting to kind of protect, but also prevent. A lot of your protection around sunscreen is also going to be preventative because we've spoken about how the sun does extrinsic aging, how it fragments your collagen and elastin. So you've done well if you've got a good bank of sunscreen, good sun habits. Then in your early 20s, we're definitely wanting to start that prevention route. So that's when you're looking at your antioxidants. So vitamin C, antioxidant topically, but also supplemented. So you'd look at your things like vitamin C supplementation, maybe something like a resveratrol, and then obviously with your others built on. And then as we go into our 30s, that's when you're starting to think about regeneration. So we've spoken about how your natural rate of collagen starts to decline, your hyaluronic acid declines, your rate of skin cell turnover starts to decline from your 30s to late 20s. So in your 30s, that's where you're starting to think about regeneration and repair. And that's where I usually place your topical retinoids. So that's when you're going to start trying to correct some of the damage that's done, optimize, and keep your antioxidant and your protection on board. And then when we go into our 40s, you're starting to really think more about regeneration, more about stimulation. And that's when you would start probably keeping everything from before, because everything's cumulative, so it just gets more and more and more that you need. But then you're starting to think about, how can I boost my intrinsic collagen? So you may be going to look at your diet again, optimizing your supplementation. You might need to lean more into things like magnesium, evening primrose oil from a sleep point of view, sleep hygiene point of view. And then you're going to start thinking about maybe in-office procedures to stimulate your collagen and elastin. So microneedling, collagen biostimulators. And then in your 50s, it really is, again, and more focusing on regeneration, fixing what has been lost if you wanted to. But again, still protection, antioxidant, your retinoids for repair and regeneration. And then there you're also going to really want to be thinking about, and I think all the way through, you're going to be thinking about vitamin D supplementation, because we're not getting enough vitamin D, because we're protecting me not being in the sun. Even though the sun is not a great source of vitamin D, you can actually rather get a better quantity of vitamin D through supplementation. So that's something also that you should think about through life.
Lauren, I could talk to you for hours. And, I know that our listeners are busy. So I'm going to wrap up with one myth that you want to bust, whether it's hair, skin, nails. What is it? That's like your pet peeve.
So I think, my myth, or the thing I want to bust, is these trends. So everything needs time. Consistency is key. So that's just a general kind of overarching statement. Consistency is key. You don't need everything that comes out. Just take a step back. What is this? What am I using? What is my goal? What is my need? Does this fit into what I've got? Is it better than what I've got? Because you don't need 10 things. Sometimes one thing will do what all the 10 are doing. So I think it's always just about being simplified, intentional in what you're doing.
And it's probably also consistency, right? If you're chopping and changing the whole time, you're not giving things the chance to work. So this was actually something that someone once told me, when she was like, try the whole range, and because they actually develop to work together.
Exactly.
And, use them for 3 to 6 months to see a difference, and then change if you're not happy. But chopping and changing the whole time, you actually don't know what's doing good and what's not.
Well, I think that's the thing. It takes 6 to 8 weeks for the skin and hair to turn over. Nails longer. So anything you're doing, you're only going to see the benefit in 3 months' time. So chopping and changing after 2 weeks, when you've had a purge and you're like, I hate that product, it doesn't work, or I've tried this and I made it worse, you have to ride it out before you can actually make a call.
Oh, even that vitamin C, it makes me break out. Anyway,
Just got to try a different form.
Okay, thanks.
We'll talk off air.
Thanks. And I agree with you, that 6 to 8 weeks. So I noticed that with eyelashes, you can have really long eyelashes and then 6 weeks later, they're nothing. But also Overderm, which is the eggshell collagen in our new hair, skin and nail product, has clinical studies behind it that show real benefits after 60 days. So hang in there.
Well, that's the thing. People buy it for 1 month and they're like, this didn't work.
Yeah, no, you need a good season to try something out.
Exactly.
Okay, so Lauren, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Like I said, the mission and the purpose behind this podcast is really to have heroic, inspirational, informed females like you, empowering us with the knowledge we need to take our health to the next level. So thank you for that.
Thanks for having me.
And to all of our viewers out there, as a thank you for being part of our community, please use Her Health on checkout. It's a coupon code on checkout on our website, phytoceutics.com, to get 20% off your first order. And yeah, please take care of yourselves. Focus on your hair, skin, and nails, your health, and remember, you are a force of nature.